Shocking revelations in the 1969 murder of a Baltimore nun. Two women close to the case are telling WJZ they know who killed Sister Kathy Cesnik.
Have you ever stumbled upon a story so baffling it clings to your thoughts? The tale of Sister Catherine Cesnik is just that, a blend of devotion, mystery, and an unresolved ending. Born into a devout Catholic family, her life took a turn towards the tragic and mysterious. But who was Catherine Cesnik, and what led her to a path intertwining faith with a disturbing enigma? Catherine Cesnik's early life and path to nunhood. Catherine Cesnik's story begins in a modest neighborhood of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Born on November 17, 1942, into the devout Catholic family of Joseph and Anne Patricia Cesnik, Catherine, fondly known as Kathy, was the eldest of their daughters. The Cesniks, a deeply religious family, instilled in their children the values of faith and service from an early age. Kathy's childhood was marked by regular church attendance and education in Catholic institutions. She attended St. Mary's Assumption School, operated by the School Sisters of Notre Dame, an order known for its dedication to education. These formative years were crucial in shaping Kathy's worldview, embedding in her a strong sense of community and spiritual devotion. As a teenager, Kathy attended St. Augustine Catholic High School. Those who knew her described her as compassionate, intelligent, and deeply committed to helping others. She excelled academically and was known for her kind nature and willingness to lend a helping hand to anyone in need. It was during these high school years that Kathy's thoughts turned towards a life of religious service. The decision to join a religious order is never taken lightly, and for Kathy, it was a culmination of her upbringing and personal convictions. In 1960, after graduating from high school, Kathy moved to Baltimore to join the School Sisters of Notre Dame. Her family, though supportive, found her departure difficult, particularly her sister Marilyn, who shared a deep bond with Kathy. Life in the convent was a drastic change. The novitiate period, typically lasting 2 years, was a time of spiritual and educational preparation. It involved rigorous study, prayer, and the practice of vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Kathy embraced this new chapter of her life with the same vigor and dedication she had shown in her earlier years. Her sister Marilyn recalled visiting days at the convent, poignant moments where the family would reunite, albeit briefly. Despite the physical distance and the demanding schedule of a novice, Kathy maintained close ties with her family through letters and phone calls. These communications were a lifeline, keeping her connected to her roots while she navigated her new life. Kathy's commitment to her novitiate was evident in her approach to her studies and spiritual preparation. She took temporary vows, a significant step in her journey towards becoming a full-fledged nun. This period also marked the beginning of her career in education, a field she was passionately drawn to. In 1965, Kathy started teaching at the newly established Archbishop Keough High School on Caton Avenue. Her role as an English literature teacher and drama club supervisor allowed her to channel her energy and enthusiasm into educating and mentoring young women. Students remembered her as a dynamic, engaging teacher who not only imparted knowledge but also cared deeply about their well-being. Kathy's approach to teaching was innovative and inspiring. She made learning an adventure, often using creative methods to spark interest in literature and the arts. Her former student Hoskins reminisced about Kathy being a real-life version of Maria from The Sound of Music, warm, exuberant, and strikingly beautiful. The late 1960s were a time of significant social and cultural upheaval. Like many nuns of that era, Kathy felt the need to explore her role in the wider world. In 1969, she requested a sabbatical from the Notre Dame order, a decision driven by a desire to expand her horizons beyond the confines of the convent. Her sister Marilyn spoke of Kathy's feeling that her potential was not fully realized within the institutional limits. During her leave, Kathy transitioned to teaching at Western High School in Baltimore. This move, though still within the realm of education, represented a significant shift in her life. No longer confined by the strictures of convent life, Kathy began to explore new avenues of teaching and engaging with the community. A beloved teacher's disappearance. November 7th, 1969, began like any other day for Sister Catherine Cesnik. The sun dipped below the horizon in Baltimore, marking the end of a regular day at Western High School where she taught. Little did anyone know that this day would mark the beginning of a mystery that would haunt Baltimore for decades. Catherine, who had taken a sabbatical from her religious order, was living a life devoted to education. She resided in a modest apartment with another nun, Sister Helen Russell Phillips. They had forged a life balancing their spiritual commitments with their roles as educators in a public school. That evening, Catherine mentioned to Sister Helen that she planned to go shopping for an engagement gift for her sister, and also needed to cash a check. The mundane nature of these errands belied their significance, as they were the last activities Catherine would be known to undertake. Catherine left their apartment in her green Ford Maverick, a vehicle that would later become a pivotal clue in her disappearance. She cashed a check for $255 at the bank in Catonsville, Maryland, a routine errand that unexpectedly became a part of a tragic narrative. From there, she drove to the Edmondson Village Shopping Center, about 3 miles from her home, where she bought buns at Muley's Bakery. It was a simple act, an ordinary purchase, but it was the last confirmed sighting of Catherine alive. Sister Helen began to worry when Catherine did not return home that night. It was unlike Catherine to be out late without informing someone of her plans. Her concern deepened as hours ticked by with no word from Catherine. In the early hours of November 8th, she sought help from 2 priest friends, Fathers Peter McKeon and Gerard Koob, who immediately launched a search for Catherine. Their search led them to Catherine's car, found in an unusual state and location. The vehicle, parked haphazardly and a block from her apartment, was unlocked, with muddy tires and a twig caught in the steering wheel. Oddly, it was parked in a no-parking zone, even though Catherine had a designated spot behind her building. This discovery raised more questions than answers. The police were notified, and a formal investigation began. Residents of the apartment complex across from where the car was found provided some clues. Some claimed to have seen the nun in her car around 8:30 p.m., looking as if she was waiting for someone. Others saw the car later in the night, already in its final, unusual position. Detective Nick Giangrasso took charge of the case. The investigation was challenging from the start, hindered by a lack of concrete evidence and clear leads. The police combed through Catherine's life, searching for any hint of trouble or potential enemies, but found none. Catherine was a beloved figure, respected and admired by her students and colleagues. Her life in the convent and school was tranquil, dedicated to teaching and spiritual growth. Who would want to harm such a person, and why? Rumors and theories abounded, but with little solid evidence, the investigation stalled. The police and community grappled with the inexplicable disappearance. Catherine's students at Western High School were particularly affected, finding it hard to accept that their caring and dedicated teacher had vanished under such mysterious circumstances. As days turned into weeks without any sign of Catherine, hope of finding her alive began to fade. The question shifted from where she was to what had happened to her. The community prayed for her safe return, but as the harsh winter of 1969 set in, a grim reality took hold. Catherine's disappearance gripped Baltimore, capturing the attention of the media and public. Her case was discussed in hushed tones in classrooms, around dinner tables, and in the media. The mystery of her disappearance raised troubling questions about safety and trust in the community. It was a chilling reminder that tragedy could strike unexpectedly, even to someone as seemingly safe and protected as a nun and teacher. The discovery and immediate aftermath. As 1970 dawned, the mystery surrounding Sister Catherine Cesnik's disappearance lingered like a shadow over Baltimore. The vibrant life of a beloved teacher and nun had been eclipsed by an eerie silence. Then, on January 3, 1970, a grim discovery turned the missing person case into a homicide investigation. 2 hunters in a remote, snow-covered field near Monumental Avenue, Lansdowne, stumbled upon a horrifying scene. Partially buried in a snowbank and concealed by nature's winter blanket was the lifeless body of Catherine Cesnik. The location was a considerable distance from where she lived and was last seen, suggesting that she had been transported there after her death. The autopsy report painted a bleak picture. Catherine had suffered a brutal blow to the head inflicted by a blunt object. This severe trauma was determined to be the cause of her death. The condition of her body and clothing raised suspicions of a sexual assault, although the autopsy could not conclusively confirm this due to the time elapsed since her death. The discovery of Catherine's body sent shockwaves through the communities of Baltimore and beyond. Her students, colleagues, and the countless lives she had touched were left grappling with a harsh reality. Their beloved sister Kathy, a beacon of kindness and hope, had met a violent end. The Baltimore County Police took over the investigation as the body was found in their jurisdiction. Detective Nick Giangrasso, who had initially led the investigation, had to step aside, passing the case to county detectives. This shift in jurisdiction added another layer of complexity to an already convoluted investigation. The hunt for Catherine's killer intensified, but the leads were frustratingly scarce. The police faced a daunting task. The motive for the murder was unclear, and there were no obvious suspects. Catherine's life in the convent and school appeared unblemished by controversy or conflict. The lack of any known enemies or risky behaviors in her life only deepened the mystery. The investigation delved into every aspect of Catherine's life, seeking clues that might shed light on her tragic end. Detectives interviewed family members, friends, fellow nuns, and students. They sought to uncover any hidden facets of her life or relationships that might have led to her murder. Yet every path they followed seemed to lead to a dead end. The shock and grief of Catherine's death were compounded by the baffling lack of progress in finding her killer. The community, especially those at Archbishop Keough High School where she had previously taught, struggled to make sense of the senseless. Students and faculty grappled with fear, anger, and sorrow, their faith in safety and justice shaken. Rumors and speculations circulated wildly. Some wondered if Catherine had uncovered something sinister that led to her murder. Others speculated about random acts of violence or a disturbed individual targeting a woman alone at night. But without concrete evidence, these theories remained in the realm of conjecture. The media coverage of the case was intense, keeping the story in the public eye. Yet this attention did not bring the desired breakthrough. The police were under immense pressure to solve the case, but the lack of witnesses, forensic evidence, and clear motives thwarted their efforts. As the weeks turned into months and then years, the case grew colder. The memory of Catherine Cesnik's gentle smile and compassionate nature lived on in the hearts of those who knew her. But the mystery of her death remained unsolved. Her family, friends, and the community were left with a haunting void, a story without an ending, and a question that echoed in the silence. Who killed Sister Catherine Cesnik? The investigation, challenges, and suspicion. The investigation into Sister Catherine Cesnik's murder was labyrinthine from the outset, marked by dead ends, baffling leads, and an undercurrent of suspicion that permeated the community. The Baltimore County Police faced a daunting task, uncovering the truth behind the brutal death of a respected nun and teacher. One of the immediate challenges was the lack of physical evidence. The crime scene in the remote field provided few clues. The condition of Catherine's body, subjected to the elements for weeks, compromised potential forensic evidence. Her car, found a mile from her apartment, was similarly bereft of clues, cleaned of any potentially incriminating fingerprints or DNA. Moreover, the delay in finding her body meant that crucial time was lost. Potential witnesses' memories faded, and any immediate physical evidence at the scene of her abduction or murder was likely lost or contaminated. In the absence of concrete evidence, rumors swirled. Theories ranged from random acts of violence to targeted killing by someone she knew. One persistent rumor suggested Catherine might have uncovered something sinister at Archbishop Keough High School, where she had previously taught, possibly related to sexual abuse. This theory, however speculative, gained traction in the community, adding a layer of complexity and dark intrigue to the investigation. Detectives explored the possibility of a connection to her former workplace, Archbishop Keough High School. They interviewed staff and students, probing for any hint of impropriety or conflict that might have led to her murder. However, this line of inquiry yielded little of substance. The school and church officials cooperated with the investigation, but their responses often seemed guarded, which only fueled more speculation. As the investigation progressed, several individuals came under scrutiny. Among them was a fellow priest, Gerard Koob, who had a close relationship with Catherine. Koob was among the first to search for her and reported her missing. However, his alibi for the night of her disappearance was solid, corroborated by witnesses and receipts. Despite intense questioning and even a polygraph test, nothing substantive linked him to the crime. Another person of interest was a local man with a history of sexual offenses. His criminal record and proximity to the crime scene made him a plausible suspect. However, there was no direct evidence linking him to Catherine's murder, and he maintained his innocence. The media played a significant role in the investigation, keeping the case in the public eye and sometimes applying pressure on law enforcement. Newspaper articles and television reports often contained a mix of factual reporting and sensational speculation, which both helped and hindered the investigation. On the one hand, the media attention kept the case alive. On the other, it sometimes propagated unverified theories that muddied the waters. The investigation also faced internal challenges. There were rumors of a lack of coordination between different police departments and jurisdictions. Detective Giangrasso, initially involved in the case, suggested years later that there were hindrances in the investigation, possibly due to the influential reach of the church in the local community. The prolonged nature of the investigation and the lack of closure had a profound impact on the community. Students and staff at Archbishop Keough High School, in particular, felt a mix of fear, anger, and confusion. The possibility that one of their own could be involved in such a heinous crime was a source of deep distress. As years passed, the case grew colder, but it never faded from the collective memory of Baltimore. The mystery of who killed Sister Catherine Cesnik continued to haunt those who knew her and those who later learned of her tragic story. The case remained open, a somber reminder of a life taken too soon, and a crime that shook the foundations of a community. Unearthing a darker truth. As the investigation into Sister Catherine Cesnik's murder trudged on without significant progress, a startling and sinister aspect of the story began to emerge. This new dimension would cast a shadow over the institutions Catherine had been a part of and unveil a chilling underbelly of abuse and secrecy. Years after Catherine's murder, former students of Archbishop Keough High School began to come forward with harrowing tales of abuse. They alleged that Father A. Joseph Maskell, a priest and counselor at the school, had been abusing students for years. These revelations sparked a horrifying possibility. Could Catherine's murder have been connected to her knowledge of these abuses? The theory posited that Catherine, known for her empathy and protective nature towards her students, might have discovered or suspected the ongoing abuse at Archbishop Keough. As a teacher deeply invested in the welfare of her students, she would likely have been troubled by such revelations. Some speculated that her knowledge of these dark secrets and potential intent to expose them could have led to her murder. Father Maskell, by the late 1990s, became a central figure in a scandal that rocked the Baltimore Catholic community. Multiple former students accused him of sexual abuse, often under the guise of counseling sessions. The allegations painted a picture of a predator who exploited his position of authority and the trust placed in him by students and their families. The police reopened Catherine's case in light of these revelations, exploring the potential link between her murder and the allegations against Maskell. However, proving such a connection decades after the fact proved to be an insurmountable challenge. Maskell vehemently denied any involvement in Catherine's murder and the abuse allegations. Despite the lack of concrete evidence to charge him, the cloud of suspicion around him persisted. The allegations against Maskell and the possible connection to Catherine's murder opened a Pandora's box of questions about the extent of abuse in religious institutions. The community grappled with the realization that the very individuals entrusted with the moral and spiritual guidance of young people were capable of such heinous acts. For many of Catherine's former students and colleagues, these revelations added a new layer of trauma to an already painful chapter. The thought that Catherine might have been a casualty in a sinister cover-up of sexual abuse was both heartbreaking and infuriating. As more victims came forward, the role of the Catholic Church in handling abuse allegations came under scrutiny. Questions were raised about whether the Church had knowledge of Maskell's actions, and if so, why nothing was done to stop him. The Church faced criticism for its handling of abuse cases, accused of protecting its own at the expense of victims. For the victims of abuse, the road to justice was fraught with challenges. Many struggled with the trauma of their experiences for years, only finding the courage to speak out decades later. The legal system, with its statutes of limitations, often proved an additional hurdle in their quest for justice. Despite the explosive nature of the abuse revelations and their potential connection to Catherine's murder, the mystery of her death remained unsolved. The lack of direct evidence linking Maskell or anyone else to the crime meant that Catherine's case continued to languish as a cold case. The abuse scandal at Archbishop Kyo and the questions surrounding Catherine Cesnik's murder had a lasting impact. They contributed to a broader conversation about sexual abuse within religious institutions and the need for transparency and accountability. For many, Catherine's story became emblematic of the struggle against such abuse and the often silenced voices of victims. The legacy of Sister Cathy and ongoing mystery. The unresolved murder of Sister Catherine Cesnik and the subsequent revelations of abuse at Archbishop Kyo High School have left an indelible mark on the Baltimore community and beyond. Over 5 decades later, the legacy of Sister Cathy, as she was affectionately known, and the haunting mystery of her death continue to resonate. Sister Cathy's murder was more than a cold case. It was a tragedy that shook the foundations of trust and safety within a close-knit community. Her death and the later revelations of abuse challenged the community's faith in institutions once held in high regard. The impact was profound, especially on her former students and colleagues who grappled with feelings of loss, betrayal, and disillusionment. The case of Sister Cathy, particularly in light of the abuse allegations at Archbishop Kyo, became a catalyst for change. It brought to the fore the issue of abuse within the Catholic Church, contributing to a wider movement demanding accountability and transparency. Her story, though tragic, helped amplify the voices of abuse survivors and underscored the importance of protecting the vulnerable. The mystery surrounding Sister Cathy's murder gained renewed interest in the public eye, especially after the release of the Netflix documentary series The Keepers in 2017. The series delved into the details of her life, the circumstances of her death, and the alleged abuses at Archbishop Kyo. This attention brought the case to a global audience, reigniting calls for justice and answers. Despite the passage of time, interest in solving Sister Cathy's murder remains. Amateur detectives, journalists, and former students of Archbishop Kyo continue to piece together the puzzle. Various theories have been proposed over the years, ranging from a random act of violence to a targeted killing to silence her from exposing the abuse. However, definitive answers remain elusive. The role of the Catholic Church and the initial handling of the case by authorities have come under scrutiny. Critics argue that the Church's influence and the slow response of law enforcement allowed crucial evidence to slip away. The possibility of a cover-up, whether to protect a murderer or to hide a scandal, has been a persistent theme in discussions about the case. Sister Cathy's story has become a powerful tool in advocating for survivors of sexual abuse. It has raised awareness about the long-term effects of such trauma and the importance of providing survivors with a platform to share their stories. Her life and death remind us of the need for vigilance in safeguarding the rights and well-being of individuals, especially within educational and religious institutions. For survivors of abuse and families of victims like Sister Cathy, the ongoing mystery is a source of pain and frustration. Yet there is also a sense of purpose in their pursuit of truth and justice. They continue to fight not just for Sister Cathy, but for all victims of abuse who have suffered in silence. Beyond the tragedy and the scandal, Sister Cathy is remembered for her dedication to education, her compassion, and her unwavering commitment to her students. Her former students recall her warm smile, her innovative teaching methods, and her ability to inspire. In many ways, her legacy is not defined solely by her untimely death, but by the lives she touched and the positive impact she had during her life. The legacy of Sister Kathy and the ongoing mystery of her death continue to spur efforts for justice and closure. They remind us of the need for continued vigilance against abuse and the importance of seeking truth, no matter how long it takes. As technology advances and new investigative methods emerge, there remains hope that one day the truth about what happened to Sister Kathy will be revealed.